So for the third UConn Project Skype call, me and my partners Mason and Becky had a little look back at all of our previous questions that we had discussed and tried to think about whether or not we felt differently about things now than before. General consensus was that we have pretty much the same opinions as we did. Like, none of us had really found anything that had anything new to say about any of the topics or found that we changed differently. We were having trouble coming up with new stuff to say. So I tried to rephrase the question a little to try to get more discussion going. So I rephrased it into, has there been anything that has stuck out during the course for you? Anything that made you change your mind about anything? And that got a couple more interesting answers and a couple more responses and helped the discussion go along a little bit better. And what came to mind was that all the practice that we've done this year at asking questions and like finding things to kind of push people's understanding of it, or how do I phrase this better? Asking questions that help people think more about themselves or think further about things. All the practice of that has come in handy for these calls. Because sometimes, you know, you come up to like a conversational barrier or just like a point where we're just like, well, that's all we have to say on the matter. So asking little questions like that kind of helps move things along a little more. And it definitely felt artificial at first, especially when we were first starting to practice it in class with each other. Because you're like actively looking for things. Like you're observing and you're thinking, can I ask a question about this? What about this? What about this kind of thing? But it's definitely a little more natural now, especially because of all the practice. And I think it also helps that I know Mason and Becky a little bit better now after all this time. So it's easier to have things that kind of like naturally surface that you're curious about. So they'll be talking about something and I'll think, oh, I want to hear more about that. So I'll ask them about it instead of like actively looking for things to ask them about. Overall, I really do think this was a great project. I've mentioned before how beneficial I think it is to have people to talk through issues like this, because it's stuff that we should be thinking about, you know, like we should be questioning like the systems that we have in place and what we want education to look like, because we're like the next generation and whatnot. And it really helped that it was like scheduled time for critical conversation. Like it's these kinds of topics could definitely come up within like class time, but having scheduled time outside of class time to talk about it with peers was beneficial to get like ideas flowing and feeling a little more like comfortable and natural, like discussing what kind of a future we want for education. And I definitely learned a lot from them. In the last conversation we had, they were talking about how they also did leadership exercises, so I definitely get some ideas from there. But it also helps a lot that sometimes when you talk to other people, they can articulate things that you can't yet. Like it's a thought that you have, but you haven't developed it fully, but they have, so they can like tell you what it is you're thinking in your own words. So overall, very positive feelings for this project. Helped us all be more insightful people, helped us with networking, and it was just a lot of fun getting to know. They called me their Canadian pal, so I'm going to call them my American pals. It was a lot of fun.